You're tuning in to Creepy Time, where we bring you chilling creepy stories and eerie urban legends every day at 6 p.m. To support Creepy Time, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments so we can discuss the story together. Now, let's dive into today's tale. Rules of the Deepweb black market. They told me to never ask what was in the packages. Don't look, don't question, don't think. Simple rules, right? Rules that keep you alive. At least, that's what I believed before everything unraveled. I'm recording this because someone needs to know the truth. If I disappear after tonight, at least there'll be a record. My name was Ethan Carter. I was 25, a college graduate, born and raised in Fresno, California. No criminal record, no drugs, no debts. And yet, somehow, I still ended up as a delivery boy for the black market on the deep web. This is how it happened, and why I'll probably be dead before morning. 6 months ago, I was just another post-grad drowning in rejection emails. I'd graduated from California State University, Fresno, with a degree in business administration. Not that it mattered. Every application led nowhere. Not enough experience, they'd say. But how the hell do you get experience when no one will hire you? Rent was overdue. My 2006 Honda Civic was running on fumes. I had $17.56 in my checking account. My parents? They thought I was between opportunities. In reality, I was starving. I was scrolling Craigslist when I found it. The ad looked simple. Discreet delivery drivers needed. No experience required. Cash daily. No company name. No contact info. Just a form. I should have ignored it. But when you're desperate, curiosity feels like hope. I filled it out. Not even 5 minutes later, my phone rang. A woman's voice, calm, flat. "Is this Ethan Carter?" I said yes. She said, "Be at 41st in Western, parking lot behind the laundromat. Midnight, don't be late." Then she hung up. I should have said no, blocked the number, but I didn't, because part of me thought this could be the break I needed. That's the last time I thought of myself as innocent. That night, Los Angeles felt colder than usual, or maybe it was just me. I arrived at 11:58 p.m. The parking lot was empty except for a black van. I parked 2 spaces away, heart punching my ribs. At midnight sharp, the van's passenger door opened. A woman stepped out. Short, thin, hair pulled tight into a bun, black suit, black gloves, no visible weapons, but I could feel danger rolling off her like perfume. "You're Ethan Carter?" she asked. I nodded. "Follow me." No introduction, no small talk. I followed. She opened the van's back door. Inside was a single box, medium-sized, black tape sealing the edges. "Pick it up." I hesitated. She didn't blink, so I did. It was heavier than I expected, warm too, almost like it was alive. "What's inside?" I asked. She looked at me for the first time. Rule number 1, you never ask that question again. I swallowed hard. She handed me a burner phone. "When it rings, answer. Follow instructions. Deliver fast, no stops." "What happens if I stop?" Rule number 2, don't. I nodded. "Where do I deliver this?" The phone buzzed. She smiled, thin and humorless. "Now you'll know." She climbed back into the van. It pulled away, and I was alone, standing in a dark parking lot, holding death in a box. The phone's screen lit up. A message. Address: 1000 189 Cherokee Avenue, Hollywood, apartment 3B. Do not knock. Door will be open. Leave box inside. Leave immediately. I drove, hands shaking. Traffic lights blurred. At 1,189 Cherokee, everything looked normal. Ordinary apartment complex. Flickering porch light. Apartment 3B's door was ajar, just like the message said. Inside, dark, empty. I stepped inside. The apartment smelled metallic, like blood, or something worse. I placed a box in the middle of the living room, turned to leave. Then I heard it, a sound from inside the box, like breathing, faint, shallow. I ran. When I reached my car, the burner phone buzzed again. A new message. Payment received. Wait for next instructions. I looked around. Nothing. No cameras. No people. But someone was watching. I knew it. That was night one. The first delivery. I told myself I wouldn't go back. But then I checked my bank account. An anonymous deposit. $5,000. Just like that. More money than I'd seen in months. And then the phone buzzed again. New message. New address. New package. I could have walked away. I should have. But I didn't. Because greed kills slower than fear. And I wasn't afraid yet. Around delivery 4, I started researching. I needed to know, what was I delivering? I didn't find urban legends. I found facts. In 2014, the FBI raided Biological Resource Center in Arizona. The images leaked online. Bodies dismembered, heads stacked, limbs mismatched. One investigator described it as a Frankenstein warehouse. In Colorado, Megan Hess and her mother sold hundreds of body parts from people who thought they were donating to science. They sold spines, hands, hearts, each piece tagged and priced. No one noticed for years. Why? Because there's no federal law against selling human body parts in the US. You read that right. It's not illegal. I wasn't working for criminals. I was working for businessmen. That's when the nightmares started, and the breathing in the boxes got louder. I kept driving that night, telling myself the money was worth it. $5,000 wired directly into my account, just like before. It felt unreal. After months of staring at negative balances and avoiding my landlord's calls, $5,000 felt like freedom. Or so I told myself. The truth? It was a leash. And the more money they sent, the shorter it got. The next few jobs blurred together. Always the same routine. Pick up the package. Deliver to whatever address they texted. No talking, no questions. Every location was different. Sometimes houses that looked abandoned, sometimes upscale office buildings after hours. Once, I delivered to a yacht docked off Marina del Rey. A man in a sharp suit and surgical gloves took the package and thanked me like I was some mailman dropping off Amazon boxes. After every drop, the phone buzzed with another payment confirmation, each bigger than the last. 7,000, then 10. At first, I told myself I'd do just one more, just enough to cover rent, then enough to fix the car, then enough to pay off my student loans. But the target kept moving, like it always does when you're running from something. I started noticing details I wasn't supposed to see. People waiting at drop-off points weren't always customers. Some were doctors, real doctors. I could tell from the way they moved. Clean, precise. Others were different. Men in military-style clothing, no names, no faces. Once, in the desert near Barstow, I delivered a package to what looked like a military checkpoint. The guards waved me through like I belonged there. That's when I knew this wasn't just crime. This was something organized, something big. The packages themselves changed too. They got heavier, warmer. Once, one of them shook slightly when I hit a pothole. I told myself it was just my imagination. But imagination doesn't leave claw marks inside a crate. That's when the nightmares began. At first, it was simple. Hearing breathing in my apartment, seeing shadows move when the lights were off. Then the dreams got worse. I dream of driving endlessly, headlights cutting through an infinite black road. Every time I looked in the rearview mirror, something different stared back. A child, a woman. Once, a man with no eyes, just skin stretched over empty sockets. I started drinking, heavily, anything to dull the dreams, but the deliveries didn't stop. They never stopped, and neither did the phone calls. The woman, the one from the first night, started calling directly instead of texting. Her voice was always calm, professional, like a bank teller explaining loan terms. She started giving me rules. Rules I didn't know existed. Don't stop at gas stations. Don't speak to police. If you're followed, don't go home. What if I'm caught? I asked once. You won't be, she said. How can you be so sure? There was a pause. Because you're not interesting enough. I wanted to ask what that meant, but the call ended. It always ended when I asked the wrong question. Around my 20th delivery, I tried to quit. I called her, told her I was done, told her I didn't care about the money. She listened, quiet, patient. Then she said, I understand, and hung up. For a moment, I felt relief, real relief. I thought I was free, until I got home. The door to my apartment was ajar. Inside, everything looked normal at first, until I saw the dining table. There was a package sitting there, just like the others. But this time, it wasn't taped shut. It was open. Inside was something wrapped in clear plastic. Red, wet. It took me too long to realize what it was. A human heart, still beating. Next to it was a photograph of my mother. The message was clear. Keep driving. And so I did. But that night, something changed in me. Something broke. I stopped thinking of myself as human. I stopped feeling anything. Fear, guilt, regret, they all faded, replaced by a cold, empty logic. I told myself I wasn't killing anyone. I was just a courier. And couriers don't ask questions. I made deliveries to Las Vegas, Phoenix, Seattle. Once, I drove all the way to Denver. No flights, no buses, always by car, always at night. The packages got stranger. Some were cold, others warm. Some smelled like chemicals. Others smelled like rot. Twice, I saw packages moving. I stopped checking after that. I convinced myself that ignorance was survival. But curiosity is poison. And eventually, I got curious. I started researching. Deep web forums, medical blacklists, news reports nobody cared about. That's when I found the stories. Real stories. In 2016, in Detroit, federal agents raided a funeral home operating as a body brokering hub. They found decomposing bodies stored improperly. Skulls sold online as medical specimens. One investigator described finding severed limbs in garbage bags alongside human heads tagged with price labels. In 2019, the FBI took down a Harvard Medical School morgue manager for selling stolen human remains. Skulls, spinal cords, even human skin were being sold to private collectors and occult enthusiasts. The worst part? In most cases, selling non-transplantable human body parts is perfectly legal in the US. There's no federal law preventing it. You can sell a human skull online and no one will stop you. I wasn't working for monsters. I was working for entrepreneurs. I started losing sleep after that. Because once you realize you're part of the machine, it's too late to shut it down. I thought I hit bottom when I delivered a live animal. But then came the night I delivered a person. I'll never forget her. Blonde hair, thin, maybe 20, wrapped in plastic like cargo, duct tape over her mouth, eyes open, alive. When the customer took her from my trunk, he nodded politely, like I was an Uber driver. That night, I didn't sleep, didn't eat, didn't drink. I just sat in the dark, waiting for the phone to ring again. And when it did, I answered. Because that's what packages do. They go where they're sent. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being the driver. I became the delivery. I don't remember when the deliveries stopped feeling like jobs and started feeling like sentences. Every drive felt heavier, longer, like time itself stretched to punish me. The money kept coming. My bank account ballooned into numbers I'd never dreamed of, but the more zeros I saw, the more useless it felt. What could I buy that would make me clean again? One night, as I drove through the Nevada desert, I found myself rehearsing my own obituary. It wasn't fear anymore. It was inevitability. I knew where this ended. Either I disappeared or I delivered until I broke completely. I stopped at a rest stop bathroom that night, even though the rules said never stop. I stared at myself in the cracked mirror. My skin was pale, my eyes sunken, my lips cracked from dehydration. I looked dead already. I laughed. That's when I heard the knock on the bathroom door. I froze, not a word, not a breath. 3 knocks, deliberate, slow. I checked my phone. No messages, no instructions. I didn't open the door. Eventually, the knocks stopped. When I stepped outside, no one was there. But taped to the windshield of my car was a new phone. They knew. They always knew. And they wanted me to remember that. That night, I delivered to a place I'll never forget. A small house outside Victorville, California. It looked normal. That was the worst part. Inside, the lights were on, furniture, a child's drawings taped to the fridge, photos on the wall. But there was no family. Just a man waiting at the kitchen table. Bald, dressed in surgical scrubs. When he saw me, he smiled. "Delivery?" he asked. I nodded. He pointed to the table. "Leave it there." I did. As I turned to leave, he said, "You ever wonder what's inside?" I froze. "You're not supposed to," he continued almost kindly. "But you do. We all do." I did answer. He stood up, crossed to the table, and without ceremony, cut the package open. Inside was a severed head, a woman's plaque, dark hair matted with blood, eyes open. I couldn't move. He looked at me and said, "That's your 6th delivery this week. You're very good at your job." I threw up in his sink. He didn't mind. "Don't worry," he said, "we've all been there." That night, I called my mother. I told her I loved her. I didn't explain why. She asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine. It was the biggest lie I'd ever told. After that, I stopped counting deliveries. I stopped counting days. Sleep became optional. Eating became optional. Driving was mandatory. Every trip felt longer than the last. Once, I drove to the edge of Los Angeles and thought about running. Leaving the car, running into the hills. But I knew that wouldn't save me. The phone would ring. And if I didn't answer, someone else would. Someone standing inside my parents' house. Someone waiting. I wasn't free. I was property. The rules weren't just suggestions. They were chains, and every delivery tightened them. I started seeing things on the road. A woman standing on the shoulder, naked, skin peeling, eyes black. Children lining the median, watching cars pass, mouths stitched shut. I told myself they were hallucinations. That I was still sane, but one night I stopped at a motel in Bakersfield. I locked the door, closed the curtains, slept for the first time in days. When I woke up, the package was in bed beside me, unopened, still breathing. I screamed until my throat tore. That night, I made my next delivery early. I didn't want the thing beside me another second longer. The recipient was waiting. He looked like a priest. He said nothing, just nodded and took the package. I didn't get paid for that run. That's when I realized something had changed. The money didn't matter anymore. I was delivering something else now. Something worse. Something alive. And they didn't care about paying me. I was no longer a courier. I was an accomplice. And eventually, I'd be cargo. That night, I tried to end it. I drove to the ocean, parked at the cliffs above Malibu. I climbed over the guardrail. The rocks looked sharp enough. The water looked cold enough. I thought about jumping, but then my phone rang. I didn't answer. It rang again and again until the screen cracked from vibrating against the guardrail. And when it finally stopped, I looked behind me. They were standing there. 5 men in black suits. No faces I recognized. No weapons visible. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. I stepped down from the ledge, climbed back over the rail, Saturday in my car, and waited. One of them slid a new phone through the window. No words, no threats, just silence. Then they walked away. I started the engine and drove to the next address because there wasn't a choice anymore. There never was. By now, you're probably asking yourself, why am I telling you this? Why confess now? Because it's over. They've stopped calling. I know what that means. Tonight's my last delivery. But there's no package in the trunk because I'm the package. I can feel it. They don't need me anymore. They're just tying up loose ends. So I'm recording this. If you find this message, know this. They're real. The black market on the deep web isn't a myth. It's a machine. A machine that turns people into products and products into profit. I was just a cog until I wasn't needed. Now I'm just inventory. Don't trust the job offers. Don't trust the money. If someone hands you a box, don't deliver it, because what's inside might already be you. I didn't sleep that night. How could I, knowing what waited for me? Instead, I sat there in the driver's seat, gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, staring at the empty road ahead, the last delivery, my delivery. I checked the phone again. No new messages, just the address. One more location. I told myself, maybe, just maybe, I could run, drive the opposite direction, cross into Mexico or Canada, disappear. But that wasn't how it worked. They were already ahead of me. I wasn't delivering the package this time. I was being sent. As dawn broke over the hills, I pulled onto the highway, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know what else to do. The roads were empty. save for a few early commuters who had no idea what was driving alongside them, no idea what the man in the battered sedan had seen, had done. I drove toward the address. A warehouse, industrial, remote, the kind of place where people vanish. My pulse hammered in my throat as I pulled in. The warehouse loomed like a steel coffin, sunlight glinting off its rusted panels. No signs, no logos, no way out. I killed the engine, stepped outside. The air smelled like rust and oil. No one greeted me. The door was already open. Inside, the place was cavernous, empty, except for a single chair. In the center, I hesitated, then walked forward, each step heavier than the last. I sat. The overhead lights flickered, and then I heard the voice. It wasn't the woman this time. It wasn't anyone I recognized. Just a cold synthetic voice, like something generated by an AI. Thank you for your service. I swallowed hard. What now? Now, the voice said, you rest. I closed my eyes and waited for the end. But the end didn't come. Instead, a new door opened. Behind me, I turned. What I saw wasn't death. It was something worse. A room, a glass room, and inside, people, dozens of them, standing, motionless, eyes wide open, each hooked to tubes, IV lines, machines pumping fluids in and out. They weren't dead, but they weren't alive either. Suspended, stored, a human warehouse. And in that moment, I understood. I wasn't the delivery. I was the recruiter. All those people I delivered, they weren't buyers. They were suppliers. And I have been feeding the inventory, fueling the machine. I staggered backward, bile rising in my throat. The voice returned. You were never cargo. You were the driver. I wanted to scream, wanted to fight, but then I saw the final horror. One of the bodies in the tanks was my friend, the one who first gave me the job, Michael. His eyes met mine and blinked, alive, but trapped, harvested. I ran out of the warehouse into the blinding morning sun. I didn't stop running, didn't care where, just away, as far as I could. But I knew it was pointless, because the machine didn't need walls. It didn't need trucks. It didn't even need drivers anymore. I was obsolete, and replacements were easy to find. Just offer money, offer hope, offer freedom, and they'll come, willingly, just like I did. If you think this is fiction, I beg you to look closer. In 2023, police in Las Vegas uncovered a house where human bodies were drained of blood and preserved in tanks. Authorities called it a horror house. Media buried the story in 2 news cycles. No suspects were ever charged. In 2024, authorities in Florida intercepted a shipping container full of cryogenically frozen human heads, labeled as medical samples. The case was sealed. Earlier this year, in 2025, 3 hospitals in the Midwest were caught falsifying death certificates. Bodies were rerouted to unknown facilities before families could claim them. These aren't urban legends. They're facts. And I helped. I thought driving packages meant I was innocent. But innocence is a lie. Every person I delivered was a life stolen. And now, I'm waiting for them to steal mine. So if you're hearing this, whoever you are, don't look for me. Don't trust the jobs that promise fast cash. Don't open boxes that aren't yours. And for God's sake, if your phone rings at midnight, don't answer. Because the only thing worse than becoming a package is being the one who delivers it. But what haunted me most wasn't what I'd seen. It was knowing how easy it had been to ignore. For months, maybe years, I told myself, I'm just the driver. I'm just moving things from point A to point B. Packages, not people. Objects, not lives. That's the same excuse people used in the old stories, right? People who shoveled coal into the engines of war, who filed paperwork without asking what happened after. They said, I was just following orders, and I was no different. I was just driving. I remember one night, not long after the warehouse, I sat in a diner off I-70, one of those places where the coffee tastes like metal and the waitress calls you Han. I watched the other customers, truckers, tourists, families with sleepy kids. I wondered how many of them were like me. How many were already part of the machine without knowing it? I wanted to stand up and scream, tell them what I'd seen. But what would I say? That the deep web is real? That human lives are being traded like scrap metal? That I delivered people like FedEx parcels to places where no one ever left? Who'd believe me? I barely believed it myself. That's when the waitress refilled my coffee. She smiled and asked how I was holding up. And I realized she looked exactly like the woman from the first delivery. Same eyes, same voice. I left without drinking the coffee. After that, paranoia became my religion. I stopped trusting people. I stopped trusting mirrors. I stopped trusting myself. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the glass tanks, the people inside, waiting. Maybe they envied me because I could still run. At least, that's what I thought. Until I found the tracker. It was buried deep in the frame of my car. Professional work, military grade. That's when I understood I hadn't been driving for them. They'd been driving me. Every turn, every stop, every thought I'd had about running, they knew. I was never free. I was inventory with a steering wheel. I tore the tracker out and tossed it into a river. But I knew it wouldn't matter, because the real tracker was in my head. The fear, the obedience, the rules. They didn't need to watch me anymore. I'd already trained myself. And that's the scariest thing about the deep web. It doesn't hack your computer. It hacks you. I started researching compulsively. Every case, every whisper, every dead-end story. In 2017, a retired coroner in Pennsylvania was arrested for selling body parts from cadavers. He'd been doing it for 15 years. His customers included universities, research, labs, and private collectors. In 2020, Interpol raided a cargo ship docked in Norway. Hidden inside refrigerated containers were dozens of human torsos, all stripped of identifying features. The official report called it a medical smuggling operation, but no one was prosecuted. In 2023, someone leaked blueprints online for human preservation tanks, just like the ones I saw in that warehouse. They were designed in the US, manufactured overseas, and shipped back under the label agricultural equipment. I wasn't alone. I was just late to understanding. So I made a decision. If I couldn't run, I'd expose them, not because I'm brave, but because I'm already dead. This recording, it's my confession, my evidence. I've embedded files, photos, documents, maps, everything I have. Maybe it won't be enough. Maybe you'll think this is fiction. But if you're listening to this, you're already too close. They don't care about people like me, but they might care about you. Because once you start asking questions, Once you start pulling at threads, they notice. They always notice. I thought they let me live after I made my last delivery. I thought I was beneath their attention. But when I came home last night, my door was unlocked. On my bed was a package, addressed to me, no return address, just a single line scrawled in marker. Thank you for your service. Inside the box, a mirror. I'm looking at it now. I can see my reflection, and I realize I was the package all along. I just delivered myself to them. So, to whoever's hearing this, if you've ever thought about clicking that link, if you've ever searched for Deepweb markets, if you've ever thought the stories were just creepypasta, don't, please, because once you open that door, it doesn't close. And the only thing waiting on the other side is you. I used to think the deep web was a place, a digital space hidden behind encrypted connections, accessible only to those willing to pay or code their way through Tor and I2P nodes. But that was naive. The deep web isn't a place. It's a system, a marketplace that exists both online and offline, a pipeline where human lives become commodities. You don't browse it, you get recruited into it. And I'm living proof. Let me tell you about the Florida case. In early 2024, U.S. Customs flagged a suspicious container arriving at the port of Miami. Manifest said medical refrigeration equipment, but a routine radiation check revealed anomalies inside the container walls. A specialized team cracked it open. Inside were 42 human heads, perfectly preserved, packed in sterile foam, each labeled in English. The official report sealed within day cited medical research fraud. The public explanation? A mistake. Improper paperwork from overseas anatomical suppliers. But that wasn't the truth. I know, because 3 of those serial numbers matched delivery codes from my own records. I transported those shipments. They weren't supposed to end up in Florida. Something went wrong. A leak. And when things leak, people disappear. The man who processed that container, an experienced customs officer named Stephen Klein, was found dead 2 weeks later in his home, gunshot wound to the head, ruled a suicide. No autopsy, no investigation. That's how the machine cleans itself. Fast, quiet, efficient, just like the deliveries. But let me take you back further, to a case no one remembers. In 1999, the body of a young woman was found in rural Wyoming. She'd been surgically dissected, every organ harvested, her blood replaced with formalin. Her body was discovered lying neatly in a shipping crate marked fragile. No missing person report ever matched her. She didn't exist. At least, not in public records. She was never identified. I've seen the autopsy photos because they were in one of the files sent to me after my second delivery. A warning, a message. This is what happens when you fail. I don't know where she came from or who she was, but I know where she ended up, as inventory, just like all the others. Now, if you're thinking this sounds impossible, think about this. According to a 2024 CDC report, approximately 680,000 people are reported missing in the US every year. Most are found, but around 90,000 remain unresolved annually. Vanished, unaccounted for. That's 90,000 people every single year. Where do they go? Some run away. Some die in accidents, but not all. Some get processed, harvested, sold, shipped. I know, because I've driven them. Now you understand why I can't sleep, why I can't run, why every night when I check my locks, I know it doesn't matter. Because they don't break down doors. They don't drag you away. They hire you. They let you deliver yourself. And the scariest part, you'll never even realize. Just like I didn't, that's why I'm recording this. I need someone to know before they erase me, because soon I'll be gone. I've seen the pattern. After a driver completes their final route, there's always a silence. Then the package arrives, the thank you note, and then nothing. They don't come for you. You come to them. That's the real delivery. And tonight, I'm going. I know it. But before I do, I'm leaving everything I've got. Not just stories, documents, images, maps, shipping logs, names. If you're listening, check the drive. Dig deeper. Follow the routes. I've marked them all. From Atlanta to Denver. From Seattle to Houston. They're everywhere. Not just ports and warehouses. Hospitals. Universities. Even military bases. Yes, the government knows. At least some of them. You think a black market this big could exist without protection? Think again. They're not just buying. They're supplying, recruiting, harvesting, processing, all under your nose. And I was their driver. I want to tell you I'm sorry, but I don't even know if that matters. Because saying sorry doesn't bring anyone back. It doesn't empty the tanks. It doesn't stop the machine. So instead, I'll say this. Don't answer the call. Don't take the job. And if they've already recruited you, don't deliver. Because once you do, you're already inventory, just like me.